I look at the food I'm serving as what's going to be considered American food of tomorrow. Because it is, because this is America and these are the cuisines in my neighborhood. So I'm serving my neighbors.
Welcome to The Profitable Table, fed by Woolco Foods, a podcast at the nexus of hospitality, business, culture, and the mind. Now here's your host, Woolco Foods CEO, Stephen Toberoff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Profitable Table, fed by Woolco Foods. I am your host, Stephen Toberoff, and I have really been looking forward to this discussion that I'm about to have for quite a while because not only have I had the opportunity to enjoy the cuisine prepared by my guest and his restaurant, but it's also a big part of Jersey City, and everything that involves Jersey City is of great fascination and importance to me ever since we moved here 20 years ago now, unbelievably. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest, which is Tory Aunspach, who is the chef and co-founder of Cafe Alyce and One World Pizza. Tory, thank you so much for coming in to speak with me today.
Well, thank you for inviting me out. I appreciate the opportunity.
So I've got a lot of questions that I want to ask you about Cafe Alyce and things directly related to that. But to kick us off, I would love to just learn a little bit about yourself, how it was you came into the hospitality business as a chef, and then how that journey led you to Cafe Alyce.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So as far as my journey into hospitality, it started when I was 13 years old. I had a friend, his grandfather owned a fish camp. You know, it was an opportunity for me to make a couple extra bucks. So I washed dishes and bus tables on the weekends. And we go out fishing during the day and come back and, work in the kitchen. I distinctly remember being sat down one weekend and being told that I was going to have to work a little bit harder because minimum wage had just gone up to $3 an hour, or from $3 to $3.25. And we were going to have to, make sure we were earning our wage. So I've been in the industry a long time. I worked for Rare Hospitality back when that company was still around. I worked for them for about 4.5 years. At one point, I was 17. They flew me down from Jacksonville, where I was raised, to Tampa. And I went to the hotel in one of the little outside communities there, and they made me wait. It was St. Pete. They made me wait a day because you had to be 18 to be a corporate trainer. So on my 18th birthday, I started opening up restaurants as a corporate trainer. From there, I went to Memphis and worked for a company called Lifestyle Ventures. We opened up several different concepts there, probably another dozen different concepts there, from coffee shops to lunchtime cafeterias, worked at B.B. King's Blues Club. Finished it up with working on private yachts as a chef. I did that for about 5 years. Didn't have a home, just kept busy. Was freelance the last 3.5 years of that. Ended up docked right here in Chelsea Piers, right across the bridge. The person I went to high school with started showing me around Jersey City, and I just couldn't believe the incredible opportunity I saw. So we partnered up and opened up my first restaurant here in Jersey City, which was Hook JC Seafood Shack.
And when was that?
That was about 9 years ago, so 2017.
Amazing. Yeah, in 2017, things were really getting going because when we moved here in 2004, there was literally, for people who are not familiar with Jersey City, where Woolco is located and also where Cafe Alyce is also in the same neighborhood, the old medical center had just been converted, and that entire development on Grand Street to the left was just getting going. Like, they built an entire city by the water there, and I saw that all go up. But, since then, I think Jersey City has been more exciting and dynamic than any of the 5 boroughs of New York, really, in terms of what's happened over the last 10 or 15 years, which is really amazing.
Yeah, the amount of growth that I've seen has been explosive over the past 9 years. Everywhere you look, it's cranes, and to me, it's just opportunity. So
100%.
The more people we get in our neighborhoods, the more people there are to feed. And fortunately, there are a lot of different diverse cultures and cuisines that we can play with, which kind of opens it up for us.
100%. So I was listening to you, and that's really cool. I mean, you really started to get positions of major responsibility in the hospitality space at 18 years old. At that age, when you were moving along in your career at that point, were you focused more on the chef and cuisine side of things, or on the overall management sort of business side of the restaurant business? Because that's an awful lot of responsibility.
I was far, far removed from business management at that point in my life. I was fortunate enough that I had been cross-trained for front of the house and back of the house, even at that point at 18, 19 years old. So I did 14 stores for them. I think, to my knowledge, I was one of only a handful of staff members that could jump back in the kitchen and train expo and prep and salad fry char, and then jump back out front and train a server. The only thing I didn't do with that company was bartend. The management aspect didn't come in till I worked for Lifestyle Ventures years later in Memphis. That was an incredible learning opportunity, but, I was also very young. So, the hospitality definitely lives up to its reputation. When you're young and dumb, you do stupid stuff, and I'm sure I've done my share, but, I made it this far. So now it's, cleaned up my act a little bit over the last 20 years for sure.
I can relate to that because one of the jobs that I had after college was working. I was in Chicago at the time, and I worked for a restaurant group called the Let Us Entertain You Group, if you're familiar with that.
I've heard of them, yeah.
Richard Melman. And I had the good fortune of working for them when they were in the process. For people that are familiar with Chicago, going back to now, I don't want to age myself, but I will. If you go back to the 1994, in Water Tower, they converted the entire top of that development into what was really a bunch of food kiosks. And then they also had a very high-end steakhouse, which is where I worked. But I got the opportunity to go through like a 6-week program as they were building up to the opening. And the lessons I've learned, that I did learn in that experience, still stay with me today. So many of them that I use even in this business. And it's really a great experience. I would think, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Tory, that having had the experience where you've done everything, as you said, other than bartending, and then going through the hospitality training that you did in Memphis, that's got to give you a level of confidence from the business side that I think a lot of people who open up restaurants because it looks glamorous or they've seen it, they don't have. Like, to what extent do you feel that all of that experience from an operational standpoint really drives your success and drives your decision-making from the business side of things?
Well, I think, what it comes down to is, and I did have plenty of experience as a bartender later on in my career, but is that, the combination of all those things, what I finally realized is that, I don't have to be the best chef. I don't have to be the best bartender. I don't have to be the best server. What I should strive to do is give the best hospitality. That was something I learned long ago. And even when I was working on yachts, I may not have had the technique that many high-end chefs have, but I cared more. So, that comes through. It really does in everything you do. As far as how that all relates to me as a business owner, it makes me not fearful of being able to do anything. Honestly, the only thing that really scares me at this moment in my career is marketing. It's one thing that I've told my partners time and time again, look, I'll do everything from fix the toilet to fix the equipment to take care of guest issues to programming the point of sale to whatever it may be. Just please don't make me do social media. And, the last couple of weeks, that's actually been what I've started stepping into. So kind of making full circle and, you just have to power through and learn new things, which, is a little bit scary as you get older.
It is, but that's to your credit, and I'm in the same boat, and I think you're right. Business is constantly evolving, and so it's really important. And I go through the same thing to push ourselves out of our comfort zone and engage in those things when we've identified, what it is that we're not doing. But you said something there about the emphasis on the hospitality side of things. And I would say without exception, every guest that I've had has said something similar, and we've emphasized it. And we have a lot of people that are budding entrepreneurs or people that want to get into the space. And I've always said, and I wonder if you'd agree with this, that if someone has a bad experience of whatever kind, and it happens in business, but they feel that they've been listened to, or they feel that people care about them, they feel valued, or even if they've had a great experience, but they didn't get that personal touch that someone appreciated them being there or recognized them on their second visit, or if you don't have that dimension in the space, it's almost impossible to build lasting success just on the quality of the cocktails, the food, or the ambiance. I think it really is that important.
I've heard it said time and time again, probably even, through this media channel, that those experiences are, anybody can be good. Anything can be great. It's what you do when the mistakes happen, and it's how you respond to those situations. It's what you're going to see every great restaurateur talk about incessantly, is using those opportunities to take a bad situation and making lifelong guests out of them. It's all about your response and your level of care and, having not just empathy, but, really can't be sympathetic to somebody for the thing, because you're not going to be in their shoes. You try to have as much empathy as you can and put yourself in their place and try to make them feel like you would want to feel if you were sitting there.
And that same philosophy, if you will, comes through in social media, because I saw your post. I thought it was excellent, and we're going to get into it later. In fact, it's a nice transition about what's going on with Cafe Alyce and One World Pizza, which is very exciting. But I found that those social media posts, campaigns, or anything that's really an outreach to the community, if it's backed up by authenticity, it works. And when people are trying to present something or trying to fit into what they believe is a perceived mold of what you should be doing in this business or that business, it doesn't work. So I think that you're going to find that it becomes much easier and more comfortable because it's a natural to the hospitality space.
I hope so.
As I said before, I've had the pleasure of, I haven't dined at Cafe Alyce yet, but I've got the opportunity of had food delivered from there, and it was exceptional, especially the breakfast stuff. And I really like the concept, but I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about it, because tell us a little bit about Cafe Alyce first. What is the concept there, and sort of what are your primary goals with the menu and sort of everything you're doing there as a restaurant and where you are in Jersey City?
Yeah, no, and thank you for asking, because this is something that I think sets us apart and is kind of hard to define via the channels that are out there. And what I mean by that is Google wants a description of my restaurant. They give me a selection of options. What I think my cuisine is doesn't fit there. The same thing with Uber Eats and DoorDash and Postmates and Grubhub and all those other platforms that are kind of set up there to market your food for you to the masses. We're taught that that you're hungry, you search for the cuisine you're looking for. What we're really trying to do is, and we'll probably never find the answer to it, but we're trying to figure out exactly what Jersey City cuisine is. And, there are a lot of other regions in America and the world that have their regional cuisine, yet Jersey City, there's nothing there that you can really put your finger on. From Cafe Alyce to One World Pizza, they kind of shift over. It's the same thought process. It's just kind of set up for a different need state for the guest, which I think, restaurants should try to fill. You should really kind of focus in on what the exact need state is that you're trying to fill for people. You're trying to be a high-end place for a special occasion, or you're trying to be, what exactly is it? So for the two different places, I think we can fill several different need states while still providing a similar cuisine. And the basis of the cuisine has come down from a few things. When I was working as a chef on private yachts, I go to we'll take St. Martin, for example. You would just assume it's in the middle of the Caribbean, that it would be Caribbean cuisine. And you go to a lot of the touristy restaurants, and that's exactly what you're going to find. But if you spend any time on the island, you'll quickly realize that you go into a little local spot where locals eat, and you'll find Dutch influence, you'll find French influence, and you'll find Caribbean influence mashed together on the same exact menu. Some of them will be combined, some of them will be a little bit more authentic, one way or the other, but they're all on the same menu, and this is where the locals eat. And it works because that's their community. For the Cafe Alyce was originally the Medical Center Luncheonette. Before that, it was the Borden's Luncheonette. And I look back to like the 1920s when it converted over. And, the building's been there since like 1894. So if you look back at that time frame and who was in Jersey City, the ruling class at the time were Dutch Protestants. And we had this really big problem with immigrants invading our country, taking over, robbing every one of the resources. At that time, the immigrants were Italian, and they were Irish, and they were Greek, and they were Polish, they were Jewish. Now you look at a diner menu of today, and people call that all-American. Undoubtedly, it's all-American. Yet it is a mashup of those immigrant cuisines from 100 and some odd years ago, and nobody has bothered to update their menu to reflect that. So I look at the food I'm serving as what's going to be considered American food of tomorrow, because it is, because this is American. These are the cuisines in my neighborhood. So I'm serving my neighbors. And, as far as the cafe, it's one different need state. I felt like there was a lacking in the breakfast market, honestly. I had this incredible opportunity. It was the first restaurant we looked at when I came to Jersey City. The Greek couple that had owned it had been there for 60 years as owners. And rightly so, she didn't trust me to take over her business, to lease it. We put in 5 different offers over the years. She thought I was going to jump back on a yacht and sail off to paradise. She kind of laughed like, "Oh, you've been in the Caribbean for 5 years. Oh, you want to move to Jersey City?" Ha, 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 ha. So I kind of had to prove myself, and we did that by opening up Hook JC. And I actually rented a room from her upstairs when I first came, and ended up taking over other rooms as they came open, ended up renting the apartment out. So I've lived there since I've lived here in Jersey City. I've lived directly upstairs from the cafe. So when it came time for them to step away from the business, for multiple reasons, she finally came to me after trying to lease it out for a while and said, look, let's make a deal. So I was happy to step in, and all we did was try to rip back all the add-ons that they've done over the years and bring it back to some of the original interior, original brick, original floors, original ceilings. So, we just kind of removed the remodels over the years and kind of presented what was there originally, and then updated the menu.
I really liked that answer. There was so much there. But one thing you said that I keyed in on, because I like it, I have my own interpretation, but would love to hear you expand a little bit more on, is you used the phrase need state. And I've never heard that before, but I really like it because the way I'm interpreting this, and I would love, as I say, to hear your thoughts also, what I love about that is so often in my experience, I've seen restaurants where everything they do is a reflection of what the chef or the owner or the founder wants, or what they're projecting onto a given neighborhood, a given dynamic. But if I'm hearing you correctly, when you talk about need state, you're doing a deliberate assessment of who your customer base and future customer base is and what need you can fill for them, almost reverse engineering it. Am I getting that concept properly? And could you talk a little bit more about how you view need state and how that sort of instructs your thinking within Cafe Alyce and your concepts?
Yeah. So, like the need state, people go out to eat for a reason. You're hungry and you got $5 in your pocket. That's a need state. I'm hungry and I need to fill my belly for $5. I'm hungry and I need food fast. That's a need state. This need state was really for the cafe was I want to treat myself a little bit. So I wanted to make sure that we opened a restaurant where, we may not be a place, I know we're not cheap. We're not the most expensive restaurant, but we're not inexpensive at all. I wanted to be a place where people felt there was a value, and maybe some of my neighbors could come once a month. Maybe some of my neighbors can come every day. But regardless of how many times you come, I just want to make sure it's a great experience. The place is clean, the food's fresh. We do things, I joke with my guests sometimes. I say, I'm allergic to making money. Like we make our own ketchup in-house. We make the jam, we make the hot sauce. I want to make sure that what you're eating is my food, not something from 1,000 miles away, jarred up by somebody who probably doesn't care about their job to make it taste like everybody else's food. It's not that I'm anti-ketchup or anti-Tabasco or any of those things. It's, you came to eat my food. Let me feed you. As far as the need state in that is sometimes you need to eat a meal that just makes you feel good. I also tell the guests, I live upstairs and I need a place after my mother. It's got to be good.
Yeah.
So
it really comes through, Tory, when I've gotten the food there. And the need state it filled for me is because I have to admit I'm a creature of habit. I'm not a foodie. I always eat the same thing every day, pretty much. But I came into work one day and I just had this desire for breakfast food, and I've driven past your place so many times and I looked at it and I believe I got the French toast. I definitely got the poached eggs. I think it was the avocado toast.
Yeah, may have been pancakes. We've never had French toast.
It was pancakes, and it was a great egg dish, I believe, over avocado toast? Do you do that with the poached eggs?
We call it yuppie toast, and I make people say it. So.
Yeah. So when you talk about need state, there was definitely one of those days where I wanted to, I guess you could say, treat myself or eat something, and it was amazing. So I would love to know, now that you've got One World Pizza, talk to me a little bit about that. What was the evolution that led to its inception? And tell me a little bit about that concept.
I'm going to be completely truthful here. That was a straight business decision, opening a pizzeria economically. When I first came to Jersey City for the first 7 years or so, 7 years plus, I swore I would never open a pizza restaurant. Number one, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not Italian. Number two, I'm not from New York. I'm not from New Jersey. I figured, let the locals do it. These guys do amazing pizza. But what I soon realized is that 20 different pizza shops serve the same exact product. It tastes almost the same, is kind of what it felt like. We have some amazing pizzerias that are a little bit outside the box. Raza, which I actually have reservations for tonight. Obviously some of the New York's best pizza. We've got Bread and Salt up in the Heights that does an amazing traditional pizza. I don't care what Portnoy says. I love the bar up there, Lo-Fi. I love their Detroit style. That's one of my favorite pizzas. But what I realized is in our neighborhood, and not just in our neighborhood, in Jersey City, there's only a couple of places that try to do something different with pizza. And I realized I had an incredible opportunity with all the different dishes and the cuisines that I serve at Cafe Alyce to transfer that into a different need state, something that's a little more economical and something that honestly is a little cheaper to operate. You know, your typical full service restaurant is very, very, very low margins. Your pizzeria is going to have a little bit higher margins as far as profit, hopefully. Also, the opening cost, you can do a lot more with pizza out of a very small space. And I've tried different concepts over the years, from the seafood shack. Post-pandemic, the seafood prices really hit me and kind of beat me up when they all tripled, sometimes quadrupled. You can't sell a fish sandwich for $50. You can, but you're probably not going to sell a lot of them, at least not on Commute Pond Garfield. So, you know, I was really searching for something that could kind of weather the storm, because I, like many people, have no idea what we're looking at economically for the next 10 years. And, you know, I want something that I can build a future on. So we kind of struck in on the pizza, and we realized that it was something that hadn't really been done. There's a couple concepts out there that try to fuse maybe two different cuisines for pizza together, but there's nobody that just dials in on that. And then we took it one step farther by designing our space, even though it's only 12 seats, more like a fine dining restaurant instead of a pizzeria. And honestly, that's just to drive focus and drive attention. I'm a chef. I have amazing chefs that have been in the industry over 20 years working with me. Yet you look at your pizza guy back there and, oh yeah, it's Uncle Sal. He's back there been making pizzas 20 years. That's great, but we're chefs. We've cooked many different cuisines, many different style of restaurants. And, you know, we want to give them room to highlight that. And what better way than to put 4 seats right in front of him and let people watch his craft as he cooks. You know, we felt like that was going to give people an opportunity to experience it, to talk to the chef. And at the same time, honestly, just help drive some of that focus towards the pizza that's moving out from behind the scenes. You know, there's going to be a lot of pies coming out the door for delivery and takeout, which is mostly what a pizza restaurant is anyways nowadays, unless you're talking about someplace, once again, like a Raza downtown. Majority of it is going to be for delivery, but something to pull those people in, to give them something to talk about, is that chef's table, and where you can have that omakase style experience, which isn't how it's starting, and we'll get into that later, but that's what we aim to deliver.
I think that's a really, really smart approach, because one of the things that I try to explain to people who are not in the hospitality space, and we sort of touched on this before, is that it's not just the food, it's not just the cocktails, it's the experience people get from leaving their home and going somewhere. And this also dovetails to what we were discussing, because the more that you have this experiential component that's unique, the more people are going to take pictures of it on their own Instagram, the more it's going to get boosted. And it's a great way to spread awareness without doing, and it's a very cost-effective way to spread awareness without taking away anything from the core cuisine. So if I'm understanding, your approach to the pizza place is going to be obviously a commitment to excellent pizza, but also pizza that's being prepared by chefs and that are bringing that background to that sort of staple, if you will.
Oh yeah, 100%. The chef's going to be, we're making every pizza to order, so we're not a slice shop. Every pizza that gets made right there on the spot. And we're giving the chefs the opportunity, especially as we're kind of planning our growth, for them to make more pizzas of different style, different varying cuisines. We're starting with a kind of a base menu now. We have our own version of our classics, things like the Mexican elote pizza with the huitlacoche. So we've kind of got our set ones now, but the idea is that kind of as we move forward and maybe pop open another location or two, that we're going to provide a platform for our chefs to communicate, so they can share ideas with each other to kind of drive that innovation, you know, so we can stay fresh. There's so many amazing cuisines in the world. And to be quite honest, like on pizza, people have been putting stuff on flatbread for thousands of years. Long before the Italians perfected it, long before tomatoes made their way to Italy, people were putting stuff on flatbread and enjoyed it because it was an easy, simple, filling, creative way. And it still is, and it's economical. I don't know of many chef tables where you can come in for 4 people for $120 and enjoy an hour with a chef paying attention to you, hooking you up with a little, amuse-bouche, a little taste to get you started, and making your salad fresh right there in front of you, and hand making a pizza just for you. I don't know of too many experiences that you can get like that for around that price point, which is going to fill a different need state for different people.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's great. I'm excited to try it Is it open?
It is. It is open. I'm signing up for a resi now, so by the time this airs, we should be live. We've been doing our reservations via Instagram DMs through 4 different channels, and it's driving me a little nuts trying to keep up. So,
oh, good. So this gives me something to look forward to in the next couple of days. You said something earlier in our discussion about Jersey City cuisine, and we have a unique vantage point here at Wilco because we have so many customers in Jersey City. I think of Ghost Truck Kitchen, I think of Orale, I think of Dull Boy, and the list could go on and on. And what I think of when I think of Jersey City restaurants and cuisine, I already used the word authenticity, but the dining scene in Jersey City is awesome. And each place that stands out, for me, it stands out on the food and no gimmicks. I think that Jersey City has evolved from something that wasn't on anybody's radar to now, if you look at Eater New York, like 1 out of every 5 or 6 postings is something about Jersey City. Jersey City is really grabbing that attention, and deservedly so. But when I think of Jersey City, I think of restaurants and hospitality establishments that are delivering great product, a great experience, without frills, smoke and mirrors, pretension, trying to be something. And in that space, it's just getting more and more popular. What is your thought on what Jersey City cuisine is now? How do you look at it? And as it's evolving, I know, but what is your perspective now?
in the last 9 years, I've seen it grow exponentially. I think we have some amazing restaurants. You mentioned one of them, Dull Boy. I love their menu. I don't eat there often enough. On top of that, there's at least a dozen others that I frequent regularly when I finally do get out. Like I said, I do live above the restaurant, so I don't get out too often. As far as being genuine, I think almost all of them are. There are some that are smoke and mirrors. I'm not going to name any names, but I can think of a few offhand. But for the most part, no, they don't last. That's the thing. And Jersey citizens don't frequent them, or at least don't tolerate them for long. So I'm appreciative of that. That kind of helps a business like mine.
I think it's cool. I think you're right. I think the people who live and work in Jersey City, you're right. There's a certain standard and a certain approach, and if it deviates from that, it doesn't last. Let me ask you this question. Do you think we're at a point yet? And when and if do you think we will get to a point, I'm going to say at scale, where people start doing the reverse commute? Now, I know that it happens in a lot of different restaurants in New Jersey. I can think of a few that we have in Bergen County. The name escapes me, but there are restaurants where people are coming from New York, going into New Jersey just to do. In your experience living here, do you think that that's something that's starting to happen where people from New York City are deliberately coming to Jersey City? And if not, do you see that being something that could happen down the road?
It's not something I see now. Not particularly. I mean, there's obviously occasions. I've had it happen a few times. Do I see it happening anytime soon? In my mind, no time soon. I think we have to get people in Jersey City to start getting outside of downtown more before we can ever expect New York City to venture into Jersey City, period.
It's a great point. It's a great point because for people who are not familiar, where my business and Tory's business is located is in McGinley Square. I think, is that our neighborhood?
That's it.
We're in McGinley Square, which in Jersey City, I think my warehouse is about a mile or so outside the Holland Tunnel. So when people who haven't been to Jersey City think of it, they see a lot of these big buildings right on the water, and maybe they go a little bit further in because there's been a lot of development. But if you go to the area of McGinley Square, Jersey, the Heights, right?
Yep.
It's a whole different vibe. But I think you make a great point. It's really about getting the people from downtown to come here. But there's a lot of development going on in this area that's going to attract a whole bunch of people that I think would be ideal consumers for your type of cuisine, like all of the stuff that's going on in Journal Square right now, all of that development.
Yeah, I think the newer development is going to bring some in. I mean, I'm familiar with the development that's there already. I've done at the Kushner Towers, I've done some events there. I'll say a large portion of that building it's like a bedroom community, very similar to the Beacon. They're advertising to what I see as people in New York who want to live in New York for a little bit cheaper, a little less expensive, maybe not cheaper. Like the apartment complex across the street from me, when I first opened, I thought that building was going to support my business. I thought that was my home run ticket. And what I've witnessed over the past 3 years, and even before then, I noticed it. is that I would say 80% of that building that sits across the street from me has never stepped foot outside the gates. They've never walked 2 blocks in the McGinley Square. They get on the bus and they go downtown. And it's very convenient. There's no shame in it. There's a ton of great options downtown. And of course, they can get on the path and go in the city. I think there's got to be some kind of it's like we just need 20 more restaurants outside of downtown Jersey City for people to lift up their head and look around and be like, oh, so many options.
It's true. And there are a lot of options. I mean, I'm thinking of just the places around here. Well, I think what you're doing, and maybe somebody will do a bit of a marketing campaign, and I'm going to make it a point to highlight some more of these guys. Because like I said, Andrew at Ghost Truck Kitchen, but it is an interesting thing because this is such a rich neighborhood. It's such a diverse neighborhood, and there's so many different types of cuisine. It really is it's a gem, and I think it's just going to take that one little shift of adjustment, and then it's going to be like the water coming on.
I hope so. I'm banking on it.
So just to sort of put a period on this one segment, for Cafe Alyce, would you say that the majority of the people are regulars? Are they people that work in the area? Are they people who live in the area? Or is it just people who happen to come by that place or have seen it online, make the trip to come? I mean, is our neighborhood developed enough where you have a core of regulars that are a big part of it?
It took a long time to build, but absolutely. The first year was very, very tough. The first 6 months were the toughest. Jersey City has this idea. We initially opened for just breakfast and brunch. And now, of course, we're open all day. But in the beginning, people would walk in and I'd present a menu in front of them and they'd look over my shoulder and yell at the cook, sausage, egg, and cheese, or, pork roll, salt, pepper, ketchup. They're like, oh, check out my menu, Oh, no, I don't need to see it. I'm sorry, we don't carry that. Oh, well then give me some pancakes. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not on our menu right now. What? Up, fine. And they lean back over my shoulder. Hey, give me a Western omelet. So I purposefully opened without any of those items to try to make people look at my menu and see what it was I served so that I wouldn't be put in the same category as everywhere else. And it took a long time, but now I'm very, very grateful to say that because of my stubbornness in the beginning with the concept, because I believed in it, that now we have a plethora of regulars, and thank goodness they talk. They talk a lot, so they tell their friends and family members and people coming in town. I get tons of people in from Airbnbs because we're highly recommended. We're finding people now starting to come in from Hoboken and Hamilton Park and exchange places regularly. So we're starting to see the flow. When I see comments online, oh, I wish you were downtown. I'm like, well, I wish you were in McGinley Square.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Sam Am Cafe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And Chef Francis down there was there.
So Francis, they've been a longtime customer of ours, and that reminds me of Cafe Alyce a little bit too. Obviously, the menus they're always different, but the same sort of, for me, the same vibe of just real emphasis on quality, real emphasis on a great meal, and a real emphasis on being true to that concept comes through.
I was fortunate enough to work with him for a short period of time, and they're great guys.
Great guys. So, I mean, I've really enjoyed this, Tory. I want to ask you one last question, which I think is going to be extremely valuable to a lot of our audience because of your experience and because how deeply you've thought about these things. For someone who's either currently in the hospitality space but looking to perhaps make the jump of founding their own establishment, or for someone who's thinking about getting into the hospitality space, what would you say would be the top 1 or 2 things? I don't want to pigeonhole you into it, but what do you think would be something important for them to focus in on at the beginning of that journey? Something that you'd want them to key in on?
Be 300% overcapitalized. Number 1, the business is so much more expensive than you would ever imagine to get into and to maintain for the first year, 2 years. Nothing ever happens as fast as you want. And that can take a toll on your mental health and relationships and everything around it. So if you can just make some adjustments and plan on literally tripling your thoughts about how much it's going to cost to open, to be successful, give yourself that opportunity, that runway, I definitely recommend that. And then number 2, I would once again just say focus on the hospitality and do what's genuine.
Such great advice, and I've heard that before, and just excellent. Well, I want to share with everybody, if you want to get in touch with Tory, you can reach him on Instagram at Cafe_Alyce, or again on Instagram, one_world_pizza. And Tory, this was really a very enjoyable conversation, but also a very educational one. I learned a lot, and it was a pleasure meeting you. And I will tell you, I am going to be trying this pizza very shortly because I love pizza and I love what you do over there at Alyce. So I think it's a great addition to the neighborhood. I'm psyched.
Hey, thank you so much. Hopefully I'll be the one behind the counter pulling your pie for you.
Awesome, man. Great talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Profitable Table, fed by Woolco Foods. Please be sure to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. And to learn more about Woolco Foods or Stephen Toberoff, please visit us at woolcofoods.net.